Hello students, good morning. Standard 7, Term 3, Unit 1, Journey by Train, Prose. Dear students, we all know that traveling improves memory and reduces the risk of heart diseases. It makes us more intelligent and happier. This has been proved by scientists. Let us see this lesson, Journey by Train. Turn to the page number 80, section 1. Listen to the teacher read this section, Journey by Train. Let us see the first paragraph. This extract is taken from the classic adventure novel Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. An Englishman, Mr. Phileas Fogg, along with his French attendant Passepartout, attempts to go around the world in 80 days on a wager of $20,000, roughly $1.6 million today, said by his friends at the Reform Club. Actually, this story is extracted from the adventure novel Around the World in 80 Days. It was written by Jules Verne. Here, an Englishman, Mr. Phileas Fogg, and his French attendant Passepartout, they both decided to go around the world within 80 days on a wage of $20,000. It was said by his friends in the place of a Reform Club. Next one, read this extract where Phileas Fogg travels through some parts of India at a time when the railways were being built in the country. So here, while reading time, we could understand the railway was introduced in India the first time. So next paragraph, some places are spelt differently as the book was written over a century ago. So while reading time, we can understand this story was written before a century. Then the next paragraph, the train had started punctually. Among the passengers were a number of officers, government officials and merchants. Passepartout rode in the same carriage with Mr. Fogg, and a third passenger occupied a seat opposite to them. This was Sir Francis Cromarty, one of the friends Mr. Fogg made on the ship Mongolia that brought him to Mumbai. An hour after leaving Bombay, the train had passed the bridges and the island of Salsette and had got into the open country. Finally, the train started in a correct time. So many passengers traveled in the train, like officers, government officials, and merchants. Passepartout with his boss, Mr. Fogg, and a third passenger, whose name was Sir Francis Cromarty. He was one of the friends of Mr. Fogg. On the ship from Mongolia to Bombay. Within an hour, the train left Bombay and passed the bridges and reached the island of Salsette. And now it was going towards the open country. The next paragraph, during the night, the train left the mountains behind and passed Nasik, and the next day proceeded over the flat, well-cultivated country of the Gondes, with its straggling villages above which rose the towers of temples. This fertile territory is watered by many rivers and clear streams, mostly tributaries of the Godavari. So now the train was moving. It crossed the mountains and the place Nasik, and the next day it moved over the flat and well-cultivated country of the Condes. Condes has straggling villages and above which rose the towers of temples. So this is a very fertile territory. Fertile territory means rich vegetated area, and it is watered by many small rivers and streams. And it mostly getting water from the river Godavari. Now turn to the next page, number 81. Passepartout, on waking and looking out, could not believe that he was actually crossing India in a railway train. The locomotive, guided by an English engineer, and fed with coal, threw out its smoke upon cotton, coffee, nutmeg, clove, and pepper plantations, while the steam curled in spirals around groups of palm trees, in the midst of which were seen attractive bungalows, viharas, sort of abandoned monasteries, and marvelous temples decorated by the rich work of Indian architecture. Then they came upon vast areas extending to the horizon, with the jungles where snakes and tigers lived. These creatures fled at the noise of the train. Then they came to forest where elephants stood gazing with the sad eyes at the train as it passed. In this paragraph, Passepartout was slept, and when he was waking and looking out, he could not believe he was actually traveling by railway train crossing India. The locomotive, which means the railway engine, it was guided by an English engineer and fed with coal. The smoking spread by the rail engine upon cotton, coffee, nutmeg, clove, and pepper plantations. The steam curled in spirals around groups of palm trees. And he could see the attractive bungalows, viharas, and marvelous temples decorated by the rich work of Indian architecture were around by the smoking of the train. Then they came upon vast areas extending to the horizon. Here, horizon means the line at which the earth's surface and the sky appear to meet. That place is called a horizon. So, jungles where snakes and tigers lived. So, it crossed over the jungle. So, the creatures of the jungles ran away by hearing the noise of the train. Then they came to forest where elephants stood looking with the sad eyes at the train. Next paragraph. At 12:30, the train stopped at Barhambur. The travelers made a hasty breakfast and started off for Azurgarh. Now they traveling along the banks of the small river Tapti, which empties into the Gulf of Cambrai near Surat. Then, towards evening, the train entered the valleys of the Satpur mountains, which separate the Condes from Bandalkand. It was 3 in the morning. Here, at 12:30, the train stopped at the Barhambur station. The travelers immediately they took their breakfast and started off for Azargarh. Now they traveled along the banks of small river Dapti. This emptied into the Gulf of Cambrai near Surat. And the evening, the train entered the valleys of the Satpura mountains. It separates the Gondes from Bandalkan. Okay, students, turn to the next page. Section 2. Take turns and read this section aloud. The train stopped at 8 o'clock in the midst of the clearing some 15 miles beyond Rothal, where there were several bungalows and workmen's cabins. The conductor, pausing along the carriages, shouted, "Passengers will get out here." Phileas Fogg looked at Sir Francis Cromarty for an explanation, but the general could not tell why there was a halt in the midst of this forest of dates and acacias. So, 8 o'clock, the train stopped in a place that is 15 miles beyond Rothal. There were several bungalows and workmen's cabins. The conductor, pausing along the carriages, and shouted, "Passengers will get out there." And Phileas Fogg looked at Sir Francis Cromarty for asking explanation. But the general could not tell. He also did not know about the halt and why it was stopped in the forest of dates and acacias. Acacias means here a thorny tree. Curious, passport out, rushed out, and speedily returned, crying, Monsieur, no more railway. What do you mean? Asked Sir Francis. I mean to say that the train isn't going to go any further. The general at once stepped out, while Phileas Fogg calmly followed him, and they proceeded together to the conductor. Where are we? Asked Sir Francis. At the hamlet of Golby. Do we stop there? Certainly, the railway isn't finished. What not finished? No, there is still a matter of 50 miles to be laid from here to Allahabad, where the line begins again. But the papers announced the opening of the railway throughout. What can I tell you, officer? The papers were mistaken. Yet you sell tickets from Bombay to Calcutta, snapped Sir Francis, who was growing angry. Here, uh, they were wondering why there was a halt of the train in the midst of the forest. When they inquired with the conductor, informed them that the railroad lines ends at Golby, 50 miles short of Allahabad. The line begins again from there in Allahabad. Sir Francis got angry because they sold the tickets from Bombay to Calcutta without confirming about the railroad lines. The next page, number 83. No doubt, replied the conductor, but the passengers know that they must provide means of transportation for themselves from Golby to Allahabad. Sir Francis was furious. Passport out would willingly have knocked the conductor down and did not dare to look at Mr. Fogg. Sir Francis, said Mr. Fogg quietly, we will, if you please, look about for some means of transport to Allahabad. Mr. Fogg, this is a delay greatly to your disadvantage. No, Sir Francis, it was foreseen. What, you knew that the way? Not at all, but I knew that the some obstacle or other would sooner or later arise on my route. Nothing, therefore, is lost. I have 2 days, which I have already gained, to sacrifice. A steamer leaves Calcutta for Hong Kong at noon on the 25th. This is the 22nd, and we shall reach Calcutta in time. The conductor informed the passengers had to provide means of transportation for themselves from Golby to Allahabad. So, Mr. Fogg, his attendant, and Sir Francis planned to reach Allahabad in time by some means of transport. As the steamer was ready to leave Calcutta for Hong Kong on the 25th, they had 2 days left to reach Calcutta. Now turn to the page number 84, section 3. Mr. Fogg and Sir Francis Cromarty, after searching the village from end to end, came back without having found anything. I shall go on foot, said Phileas Fogg. Passepartout, who had now rejoined his master, made an unhappy face as he thought of his magnificent Indian shoes. Happily, he too had been looking about him, and after a moment's hesitation, said, Monsieur, I think I have found a means of conveyance. What? An elephant. An elephant that belongs to an Indian who lives but 100 steps from here. Keoini. This was the name of the animal. Could doubtless travel rapidly for a long time, and in the absence of any other means of transport, Mr. Fogg resolved to hire him. Here, after searching the village from end to end, Mr. Fogg and Mr. Francis came back without finding any means of transport. But Passepartout suggested that they can travel on an Indian elephant. As it could travel rapidly for a long time, Mr. Fogg determined to hire it. The next paragraph. When therefore Mr. Fogg proposed this to the elephant's owner, he refused point blank. Mr. Fogg persisted, offering the excessive sum of £10 an hour for the loan of the animal to Allahabad. Refused. £20 refused also. £40 still refused. Phileas Fogg, without getting in the least flurried, then proposed to purchase the animal outright, and at first offered £1,000 for him. The owner, perhaps thinking he was going to make a great bargain, still refused. Mr. Fogg offered first 1,200, then 1,500, 1,800, 2,000 pounds. Passepartout was fairly white with suspense. At 2,000 pounds, the man yielded. Good heavens, what a price for an elephant! cried Passport out. A young man with an intelligent face offered his services as a guide, which Mr. Fogg accepted, promising so generous a reward as to greatly increase his zeal. The elephant was led out and equipped. Here, even though Mr. Fogg offered excessive amount to hire the elephant's owner refused to hire it. So, Mr. Fogg finally purchased the elephant for £2,000. A young man offered his services as a guide to them. Now turn to the page number 85. The man who was a skilled elephant driver covered the elephant's back with a sort of saddle cloth and attached to each of its sides some uncomfortable howdahs. Phileas Fogg paid the elephant owner with some banknotes which he extracted from the famous carpet bag. An action that made poor Passepartout lose his breath, while Sir Francis and Mr. Fogg took the howdahs on either side. Passepartout got onto the saddlecloth between them. The driver perched himself on the elephant's neck, and at 9 o'clock they set out from the village, the animal marching off through the dense forest of palms by the shortcuts. Here, carpet bag means a traveling bag made of the thick woven fabric used for carpet. Howdah means a seat for riding on the back of an elephant. Perched means positioned. Here, Mr. Fogg and Sir Francis took the howdahs, that means seat, on either side. Passepartout got onto the saddlecloth between them. The driver sat on the elephant's neck and at 9 o'clock set out from the village to Allahabad. Okay, students, I hope you all have understood the extract from the novel Journey by Train by Jules Verne. Watch the video once again and read the lesson from your textbook. Study the portion from your classwork note once again. We'll meet you soon. Thank you.